It's like running two schools, but with one's out. This is 7th Street.
times. Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Steve Highland, and I am with the Arizona School Boards Association. And on behalf of the governing board, I would like to thank you for joining us this evening and taking the time to be here. Arizona School Boards Association believes that this is one of the, if not the most important thing that your governing board does. And I would like to tell you that your governing board, my opinion, has taken this extremely seriously. They have been very focused, and they have done a great job, I believe, representing you in this process. Also like to thank Hilda. Where's Hilda? She's been invaluable during this whole process. And there's another lady who hasn't been around the district too much more than about 4 decades, and I'd like to thank also your superintendent, because she has been an invaluable part of this process, working with the board also. Thank you. I want you to know my role. My role is not to be a decision maker. When we represent districts in this situation, and the SBA represents several every year, we do other things like legislative work, legal work, and such. But as we represent districts, we always make it clear that we're not decision makers. We're facilitators. The decision makers in all instances are the board. So if you're wondering, does this guy play any role in that decision making? No. I advise, I give options, and I provide information. They make the decisions. And when are they going to make this decision? Well, it depends. They do have a board meeting this coming Tuesday evening. And at this point on the agenda, there will be an opportunity for your board to go into executive session and have a discussion about the interviews, which occurred last night and today. And then they will have an option to come out of executive session and possibly discuss a candidate. They may even establish a finalist, but that's not their only option. Because you've got 6 very talented people here that you're going to meet tonight, and it's going to be a hard decision. Very talented folks. And they may need some more time. They may discuss it Tuesday and go, wow, we need a little bit more time. They may have to come back to the table. They may discuss it Tuesday and say, we need to invite 2 or 3 of these folks back and have further discussion. And they may say, no, we know what we're going to do. One thing I advise every board to do is not go too fast and not make a decision until they are absolutely ready. And I am convinced by working with your board over the last 2 days and in previous meetings that that's where they're at. They're not going to make a decision until they're ready. So thank you, board, also. Appreciate it. It's been nice working with you all. Okay, so what's going to happen tonight? I'm going to ask each one of these candidates to stand up informally and just introduce themselves. You need to know where they're from, why they've got a little background. And then I'm going to ask questions that you've provided. White cards are community, staff. Pink cards are community. I do that because I want to make sure that everybody's represented. Any yellow cards, those are students. So if you'd like as a student to give me one, go right ahead. And then they're going to answer these questions. And it's just kind of a round robin. They have a chance, each candidate has a chance to answer each question. And I've asked them, though, to be brief, because with 6 people, every question, if they took 5 minutes, we're going to be here a long time. We probably still won't get to all of these. And I'm just going to kind of take them randomly. I'll mix up the white cards and the pink cards, but I'm just going to take them randomly. I'm not picking one over the other. And we'll see how far we get in about an hour's time. When that time is finished, then you as a community have an opportunity just to do what you were doing before we started, and that is get together in small groups with candidates, have those conversations, talk. And then before you leave tonight, on the back table where you have these, there's a little smaller card, a 3x5, it's called a comment card. The board would like to know your thoughts. Now, this is not a vote, please. This is not a vote. You don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you don't say, this is the only candidate you should take. What the board needs to hear is what you're thinking in terms of what's necessary for the future, what you'd like to see. They've been voted into this position to make these decisions. They need your input. It is fine to say, boy, I really like that candidate A or B or C or whatever, But again, it's not a vote. Put down your honest thoughts about what you think you've heard tonight and what you believe is best for your district in the future. Okay, you've heard enough from me. I'd like to ask the candidates in whatever order you'd like to step up to the mic and take a moment to introduce yourself. The mic is live, by the way. It's on. So go ahead.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much afternoon actually, and thank you so much for spending Saturday with us. It's obvious that it's your value to be here and choose to be here on a Saturday and to make a difference in this community. My name's Donna Lewis, and Steve asked us to kind of talk about how we might want to address this so we don't end up with 5 minutes each. So we had an informal agreement among us that we would do 2 each per question and just sort of help each other get you some face time with us. So if you want more, give us a nudge and we'll change that up. I've been an assistant superintendent for 11 years in the Valley area here. I've worked both with inner city students, some families who are very disenfranchised from the community. I've also worked with community members and families and children who are ready to launch the world and take off to the university early. So we have a range here in Creighton. And one of the things that excites me so much about Creighton is the diversity within your district and the challenge and fun of pulling the community together as one, knowing that we may have some values that we need to work on making common. So I'm Donna Lewis. Nice to meet you all.
Good afternoon. My name is David McNeil. Thank you for being here and giving me the opportunity to share myself with you. Saturdays are valuable. I know there's soccer practice, football practice, his birthday party, so thank you for being here for a brief time. My name is David McNeil. Like I said, I am a neighborhood boy. I am a graduate from Camelback High School. I grew up in the Balts district, and I'm never ever leaving Phoenix, ever. I love it here. I was a teacher for many years in the Alhambra district off of 23rd Avenue, Bethany Home. I was an assistant principal for several years in the Murphy School District, Alfred F. Garcia School, 27th Avenue, Buckeye. And I was the principal at Washington Elementary School for 7 years along I-17 and Northern. I am currently working in the Scottsdale School District. I was the district director of assessment and accountability for a couple years, and now I oversee the 19 elementary schools in the Scottsdale School District. Scottsdale is a very diverse district, and it has lots of challenges. I oversee all things elementary, and I love it. I am an elementary school K-8 guy, and I'm never changing. I'm also a parent. My daughter Ella is in Senior Pierre's and Senior, excuse me, I can't, Ash's class, first grade class at Biltmore Prep. I am a community member. I am a parent. I love it here. So thank you so much, and I look forward to talking with you.
Good afternoon, parents, students, or do we have more than one student? Community members, thank you all for being here today. My name is Juan Ceja, and I'm seeking the honor and privilege of becoming Creighton's next superintendent. And why Creighton? Why would I choose to work at Creighton? I currently have a really good job at Liberty Elementary School District in the West Valley. I'm the executive director of support services, which means I have oversight over human resources, finance, maintenance, and a whole lot of things. It kind of happens when you do something well, they give you more to do. And I appreciate that opportunity because it helps students and their families. So I looked at Creighton, and it reminds me of where I grew up in inner city, southeast Los Angeles. Why diversity? And I have to tell you that it's kind of personal for me in that I grew up in the public school systems, and when I went to the university, I felt somewhat cheated, if I may say. And I thought that while I did have some really good teachers that pushed me to do well, I did have some that kind of let me slide. And at the time, I kind of enjoyed those classes, but as a grown-up, I learned that those that pushed me were the ones that really cared for me and prepared me for the real world. And so I'm hoping that I can bring that passion to Creighton and make sure that everybody's aware that we're here for one reason only, and that's to prepare our students to be ready for college career, and be contributors to their local and global societies. I'm Juan Ceja, and I seek this honor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Anderson. I'm the Associate Superintendent of Deer Valley. I oversee 37 campuses as the Direct Supervisor of School Operations, Special Education, Federal Programs. I've been in education for 22 years. I started in Glen Elementary as a Title I teacher and really found that that was where I knew I made a difference with kids on a daily basis. I came to Deer Valley and I was making a difference, but it was different. That internal piece that's in our heart, that we know that our kids need us and they need us to provide them those opportunities that may not necessarily be there on a daily basis. And so one of the things that I see in Creighton that we can do is really looking at results and what can you do for kids to provide them that academic rigorous environment that really is going to prepare them for high school, prepare them for advanced courses, and then for college. This is a great district. I've had numerous people who have just sang praises about it, and I look forward to the opportunity of possibly being your next superintendent. And so thank you and welcome to the afternoon Saturday of learning a little bit about the six of us. So I appreciate that. I'm Kelly Sanders. I get the award for traveling parties today since I traveled from Chicago this morning. So I want to just briefly tell you, first of all, thank you all for coming out. It shows a lot about your community that we have this sort of a turnout to visit with the six of us today. I come from, my entire teaching background is at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level. I taught in Rockford, Illinois, which many of you probably have no idea, but it is a very large urban inner city environment, and I just thrived on the diversity and focusing not just on academics, because we all know we need to focus on academics, but we really need to focus a lot on our social emotional learning for our children. And what I have learned about this community is that it's a strong community, and we want to keep our friends and families close. And so one of the things that we were kind of discussing with the board is, you know, how to retain our teachers, how to retain our students, how to retain our community, and then communicate all of the amazing things that are going on here. And how are we really getting that out into the broader community of Phoenix to say, Creighton is the place that you want to send your children. Creighton is the place that you want to be here forever. So my goal is 10 years from now to be standing in the same room with way more people and talking about all of the things that we've accomplished in the last 10 years. But thank you very much, and hopefully you get to know a little bit more about us this afternoon. So thank you.
Hi everybody. Again, like everyone else said, thank you so much for being here on Saturday. My name is Yvette Rodriguez Marquez, and I have a really diverse sort of place where I've come from educationally. I've taught special education in the school for the blind and visually impaired in Texas. I taught bilingual first grade here in urban Phoenix for several years. I taught junior high. And then I've moved to administration. I have been a turnaround principal twice. I would say that my real skill set and my specialty lies in turning around communities academically and culturally, really by building on the strengths of the community and the desires of the community to include what the students want, what the parents want, what outside stakeholders want, and what the teachers want for themselves, for their school, and for the broader community. Have real practical experience around making schools work for kids and for their parents and families. And I hope to be able to support your communities in making them what you want them to be. Again, my name is Yvette Marquez, and I look forward to being a part of your community and to speaking with you further.
Thank you all. First question, and if I understood right, you've decided that two will answer, two, and two? Okay, and then chime in if you want. Okay, got it. First question comes from a community member. Describe the best culture you have ever created or been part of in your professional experience. What was it like for all participants, and how did you do that, or how was it created?
Excellent question. I got the mic, so I guess I go first. I'll tell you that at the Arizona School Boards Association, there's about 13 superintendent positions available, and I've only applied for this one. I'm happy where I'm at, and the reason why I'm happy where I'm at is because the staff that work there, they live in the community. They have kids in the schools. They attended our schools as youngsters, and in meeting some of you earlier today, it seems like it's the same here, and that many of you have been in the Crane School District for many years. You either live in the community or have kids in the community. And what that means is that you're highly vested in the district, period. You're not here because you want to collect a paycheck and go home. Rather, you want to make a difference for the community, and that goes a long way. So I've seen kind of how your boards work, and it's amazing how in 3-4 months, these guys are trucking along. And it's exciting for me. I want to be part of that. Thank you.
Probably the best community that I've been a part of working with was my last principalship. And I think the thing that made the community so great is because everybody was there. I mean, literally, everyone was there to do what's best for children. Nobody rested on their laurels. Nobody said, we're achieving at a high level and that's all we need to do. We don't need to change. They were constantly looking for ways to improve their instruction and to make a difference in the lives of their students in the class. And that was from the teacher perspective. The parent perspective was knocking on the door, saying to me every day, Kelly, what can we do to help you here? What are things that we as parents can do to not only support the teachers in the classroom, but to actually help our students at home? And so it was a community that was always invested in learning and growing together, and we were able to do that. And the student achievement kind of followed right along and raised to the level that we needed it to because of those kinds of commitments.
Next question comes from a community member, pardon me, a staff member. Do you believe teacher and classified associations play a role in the success of a district? Why or why not?
I like that question. Absolutely, I believe that the associations play a role in the success of a district. I think that happy employees are more productive employees. I think we need to really honor the really important work that goes on everywhere in the district, from the classroom to the buses to our cafeteria. It's important that the associations are there to protect those people. Also, those employees have great ideas about what could make our district a better place for students and for employees. And for employee retention and student retention is important. Both of those things are inextricably linked. And we need to make sure that we have a really close partnership with both classified and certified associations, so that we can make sure that we're hearing what their needs are, hearing what their concerns are, and addressing them appropriately in a way that's best for students.
The Crane Education Association. I was at a foundation earlier today. He was making sure that he was letting me know that it is a strong presence here in Crane. And one of the things that you look at with the association, the certified and the classified, is really that partnership between our administration, our classified, and our certified staff. Because what we know is that by working together, that we're going to be able to move kids. And so it is important that not only are they that very solid piece of what is happening in that day-to-day interactions with kids in the classroom, is that we know that communication between the district office and the school level is very important. And by being
very present and transparent, you're going to have that Creighton Education Association president and members to be able to have a voice within the system. We are not going to be able to make a difference and to be able to move forward without that fully being a team from all the way from the governing board down to the students. And so each one of them plays a very important part in that process. And so I know that my experience has been that to have monthly meetings with the association president, to be able to hear what the concerns are out in the classroom, and to make sure that those are being addressed in a timely manner, because we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to voice concerns or to celebrate, and it goes both ways. So I absolutely think that's very important for both of those.
This question comes from a community member. Describe the process you will use to help make Creighton into a destination district in which families from within will send their children to the school district, as well as families residing outside the district boundaries.
Enrollment is key. That is true. I think it's important that we look at the data. The data will tell the story. The question, the million-dollar question is, are the families and the students of Creighton staying in Creighton? What are the reasons why they're staying in Creighton? We need to know why our families are staying. I think that's important data that our principals can lean on and build on to move their schools forward. Also, we need to know why our families are leaving. Are there better things out there in other districts, programs, schools? If those things exist outside our district, then we need to start asking some hard questions about what our schools are. If we rebuild Loma Vista and it's a fabulous new place, is it operating as it did 20 years ago? Are we meeting the needs of that community that is rejuvenating, that is rebuilding? Is the principal at the site asking the questions of their parents and their community, saying, does my school give you what you want, what you need for your child to be successful for a job that hasn't even been created yet? As a superintendent and as the district office here in Creighton, we need to work collaboratively with our parents, our students, our staff, our building leaders to make sure we're asking the hard questions of if we are doing right by our community. Are we giving them what they deserve? Is the school the best choice? And if the answer is no, it might not be, then we need to ask some real hard questions about how do we make it a great place. I too love Creighton. I am happy with my job, but I want to be at Creighton because I am a parent and I'm a community member and I love this neighborhood. So my responsibility as the next superintendent is to make sure that the school that my daughter goes to and my son next year in kindergarten goes to, the school down the street or across 30th Street or across Osborne is as good as the school that my daughter goes to and that I could send my child to. That is my responsibility to this community.
Strong neighborhoods build strong schools build strong communities, so the fabric is in feeling sense of belonging. And so when I feel connected to my school, and I know that my school is more than just a place my kid goes to 6.5 hours a day, or 7 hours a day, that it's a place where it's a bigger sense of neighborhood than just that classroom. So we have some classic approaches to learning, but we also can have some really innovative approaches to learning. We can have Saturday family days. We can have Monday menudo with mom. We can have social service connections with our families so that health services and social services are a part of the way we connect with our schools. So in terms of looking at the data and knowing that we have declined from 7,700 kids in 2008 to 6,400 kids now, we've lost 1,400 kids. So something has to shift where we're examining our very own enrollment. Now, the blame is not the schools. It's not. The emphasis when we think about House Bill 1070, when we think about the economic downturn, both contributed to those shifts. But rebuilding it will be the fun part. Rebuilding it by having super focused grassroots conversations where parents and teachers are at the table together saying, who do we want to be? Who are we? And we can invent ourselves into an art school, we can invent ourselves into a Montessori school, we can invent ourselves into a STEM robotics school or engineering school, and we get the freedom and the innovation and creativity to do that. Yeah. So I think the way that neighborhoods can rally around one another is through grassroots conversations where they feel a sense of empowerment about this, the school as the representative of the local community.
Question from the staff. Please tell us how facilities maintenance connects with student or children learning.
There's something to be said about the facility in that if your facility looks in this array, your kids are going to think that this is not a place to be respected. When your facilities are kept well, then they know that the grown-ups care about them and that this is a place to be respected, and if they don't have to worry about tiles falling or light not being on, they can concentrate on the good work, which is learning how to learn and the information that's being put in front of them. So absolutely, facilities are key. I have to admit that that's probably where the biggest funding challenge is, however, and that the state is not funding capital projects anymore. So you do have to be creative. You really have to look at efficiencies and how are you making the best use of the resources that are in front of you so that you can provide the best facilities for our students. Absolutely.
I agree. Facilities are very important, and I think it goes to the basic needs of our everyone, right? Food, clothing, shelter, feeling safe and secure, being in a safe environment when we're learning. That's important. And it's true. I mean, funding is oftentimes not there, but I think you need to also really be very creative about what you do have and how to improve facilities from within by really looking at every building and figuring out, are there some small fixes that can take place to get us until funding may exist? You know, are there some small projects that we might be able to put into practice that won't cost as much, but can get us to that next funding cycle that we might be able to get some additional dollars? Facilities are not just important for our students, but they're also important for the community. If retaining teachers and retaining students is an issue that we have in Creighton, then oftentimes it may be about what we need to do for our facilities to make them more welcoming, more inviting, so that our families feel that when they enter, they automatically sense an environment that's safe, clean, and a great place for their children to learn. So it's a big issue. I think we would all agree on that, but I think that we also need to often think outside the box on how we can address some of these issues to make sure that we have really great environments for our children.
A question from the community. Our district values innovation. Share a time when you have had a big idea, set forth to accomplish it, and you failed. What was the opportunity? What was that opportunity, and what did you learn from it?
So I mentioned earlier that I have been a turnaround principal twice. My first turnaround position was in a school very similar to the school that I am now. It was called Sierra Vista School. And you can imagine that the school faced a myriad of issues, not the least of which was that the school was already slated to close for low enrollment prior to the state takeover. So there was very limited time to accomplish this turnover, and morale was extremely low, both for the teachers and for the students, because they knew that the building that they once thought was great was going to be closing, and they were going to be moving to another building. And it was my task to motivate them and increase achievement within a very short period of time. I did fail at that, but it was a successful turnaround, and I later took another turnaround. But I will say I felt a lot of pressure in that situation to increase achievement and increase it very fast. And it was my first principalship too. And I felt like the onus was all on me to get things done. I looked at what was happening, and I was in panic. So I had a lot of great ideas. I really did. I thought they were great. I felt like they were gonna be the thing that fixed student achievement, that fixed our culture. And the first couple of months, I felt like some of my ideas were working. We implemented common formative assessments. I know the teachers in here are already using those. They were obviously not using them there. But there was a ton of pushback, and I was exhausted, and I would go to the parking lot, and I would be like, oh my goodness, somebody can get me out here? Because these teachers are not happy right now. And I will say it failed because I failed to really get their input in terms of what did they want for the school. So the school wasn't doing well. But the ideas really should have originated with them. So I fixed it. As we move forward, that has become really my strength. It's really garnering input from teachers, from students, from parents around what they want their school to be. But it was, and I think it's the most important lesson that I ever learned, really. Because I was exhausted, the teachers were exhausted, everyone was exhausted because it was constant push. The idea was fine. We did end up doing it, but it was my implementation of this idea. Things cannot come from one person, and if they do, even if it's successful, once that person is gone, the idea is gone, the push is gone. So that's one time where something really I felt like was a failure, and I think it really originated with me, and it was a great lesson to learn, and I really have turned it around into, I think, my greatest strength, which is building positive communities that are based on what those communities want for themselves and for their students, and for teachers as professionals.
I change plans midway through. So if I see something that's not going to be successful, I kind of take a step back and make sure that we change our plan. So I'm trying to think of something that was a big thing that didn't quite work out, and I really didn't have anything like that. But what I did do a few years ago was our K-6 schools were going to school for 6.5 hours a day, and our K-8 schools were going for 6 hours and 45 minutes because of the extended instructional time required for 7th and 8th grade students. And so one of the things that we decided to do was to take all 15 K-6 schools and extend their school day by about 15 minutes so that it would be an equal amount of time for our K-6 and K-8. And that 15 minutes for a school year actually equaled up to close to 7 school days. And so we implemented, we had large communication, we brought in teachers, and then we rolled that out, and we were able to do that successfully with the K-6. The idea was that we would do the same thing for our 9-12 schools the next year. That was not as well as we had intended. Through working with the association and working with our teachers, we had a lot of pushback from our 9-12 teachers, and we took a step back. And so we knew that that was not something with transportation. There were some transportation issues there. We had stakeholders who were not happy from the school level. And so at that point, we just decided to take a step back, that was not something that we wanted to pursue at that time. And that would be my example. So thank you.
Community question. What role do you believe the business community plays in the district?
Huge. Our business partners, our community partners, they're the backbone. They're the financial support that the schools need. Currently in Scottsdale, 25,000 students, 32 schools. Obviously, business drives our community. The business partners we meet with monthly. We set up meetings as a leadership team to sit down and hear their ideas. We pulled in the realtors to talk about how we can market our schools. We're listening to our realtors. We're listening to our mortgage bankers. We want to know what they think about our communities and what about our schools. We want to hear their advice. They're not the expert in schools. They're the expert in the business world. Sometimes we get trapped between the four walls of the classroom and we forget that the big world out there is quite different. We have an obligation as a district and a community to make sure that those business partners are sitting at the table and that their voice is as valuable as the parent, as the student, or the classroom teacher. They're the ones that vote for us. We need them. When we go out for capital overrides or bonds or M&O overrides, we better make sure that our business partners support us, and we better be transparent about our success. We need to make sure that our scores are representative of the businesses that are in the community. Are we achieving at the rate they expect from us? And if not, we need to explain why. We need to be transparent. We need to show our money. We need to show how we spend our bills. We need to make sure that our classroom spending is above 50%. We need to make sure that our administrative costs are below the state average. And our business owners and personnel expect that from us. So is the voice of the business community important? You bet. Creighton cannot exist without that, period.
Well, business partnerships are not a gimmick program. You can't say to all the principals, now go out and create a business partnership, okay? It has to be something more organic. It has to be something that's based on relationships. And I will give you an example that I'm on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce in Glendale. And for 3 years, to be very honest, I sat quite silently and chimed in and giggled every now and then and made a few connections and asked here and there for things, but it wasn't natural at times. So one of the things that I've slowly discovered, and I will tell you in the last 2 months, it's popped and it's changed. And that is because of the friendships I've grown. And 3 years ago, when we first started our business breakfasts, we could barely get people to attend. I mean, it was too busy, too hard, I don't know what you're talking about, it's not relevant to me. And so to create relevance was the challenge. And what's interesting now is we had a business breakfast last week. We had 83 people show up. And 12 of them were from the Chamber of Commerce who were committed to coming, mostly out of a loyalty to me. And I don't mean that like it's a vain thing. I mean, it took 3 years to grow that relationship. And then as a result, I got a text from Patrick McDormand at APS who said, hey, talk to me about your foundation and what you want to do next. I'm like, excellent, door open. And I don't think we can force them, is I guess my real point, is that when we want an educated workforce, and we know our business community hears this banner that we promote all the time, schools need businesses and businesses need school because it improves the economy. But we also have to present what we can give back. I mean, we can be in the parades with them. We can help them borrow our buses. We can have student interns or community services in their business. So I think we need to show an ebb and flow and kind of a united sense of it's not all one way and we're looking for your vote or your money. That might happen on the side, we hope, but it's not just, we have to remember that we give back to the business community and the community gives back and we show an interdependence to grow our stronger workforce.
Staff question. Please tell us your philosophy and thoughts about K-8 versus K-5 middle school models.
I have a 6, a 9, and a 12-year-old at home. And I rely on my 12-year-old to help me with the younger brothers. And I think a K-8 setting gives the 7th and 8th grade students that opportunity to be leaders at their school, how to take responsibility for the younger ones. I know that some folks kind of fear middle school. I'm a former middle school teacher. I taught first grade for 1 year, and that was enough. I have the utmost respect for teachers in the primary grades because that's a whole different story. But I've also seen where middle school students can help kindergartners, first grade, buddy read. And it gives those younger kids a sense of, man, here are the leaders of our schools, because 7th and 8th graders, they run the school. And it gives those upper grade students an opportunity to do something that's constructive, something that helps them be responsible. So I'm a big proponent of K-8 schools. I know some people want to put the middle school students all in one place and kind of keep them there, away from everybody else, but no. I think the middle school kids need to engage with everyone else. Every opportunity we can give them to be leaders and grow and even learn from the little ones, then so be it. So hopefully it's not a unpopular idea to have K students, but that's where I stand. Thank you.
Well, and where I come from, we do have K through 5 buildings, and then we have 6 through 8 buildings. And so, I've seen both sides. And I think there are benefits to both, and I think that there are challenges to both. To do the middle school model, the way the middle school model should be done, with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade being in a separate building, or even within the same building, still be within the same building, it would cost a lot of money. Because to run a program like that, you then have specialists in their particular subject areas. And when you hire specialists for their subject areas, you have to provide multiple specialists. Now, I have seen a middle school model run with 2 teachers, one specializing in social studies and science, the other in math and ELA, even though that's a hard combination, because those are pretty, ELA and math together. I mean, those are your heavy hitters. But I do see the benefit of a K through 8 building in that you have your upperclassmen that can actually support some of the things that are happening in the younger grades. One of the things that I would see as a benefit is your struggling learners at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level to be able to provide opportunities for them to go down and help in a K-1-2 classroom, because it provides a mentor for the child, the younger child, but it also provides a leadership experience for the child who's struggling within their own subject area. Maybe they really can't read at a 7th grade level, but they can read at a K-1 level, and they thrive and feel so great about how they can help the younger students. So, you know, both models can be successful. You know, I like the idea of everybody being in one building so siblings can see other siblings and go to school with each other and support each other. But I also have seen the benefit of a true middle school model, but it's an extremely expensive pursuit that has to be, you know, very well thought out.
A community question. Describe your superintendency in its first month, first semester, and first year. What are your goals? What will you try to accomplish?
They told us to be fast. I feel like that's kind of a long question. So I think to start, the first month would involve, you know, I think very clearly quite a lot of talking to the community around what their goals are for their schools, for their students, talking to families, talking to teachers, talking to classified staff around what does this look like for you? What do you want? What do you want Creighton to be for yourselves? I think that moving forward, it would also involve a pretty detailed analysis done together with the community around what they feel is working. What do they feel like we really need to continue to invest in? What is it that makes Creighton amazing? And what do they think is something that could be let go of and replaced with something that they feel will be even better? I think that time also needs to be spent working with the community on the continued development of the strategic plan. I understand the strategic plan has had a skeletal rollout, but it needs to be developed in great detail with a lot of input from the community around what are our goals, who do we want to be, what do we want for our students, and then coming from there, a strong implementation of what the community has decided they want for ourselves. I think it would involve quite a lot of time for myself, and I think for the rest of district personnel at school sites, figuring out how to best support principals and best support teachers in the goals that you have chosen for yourselves and for your districts and for your students. And it's a continued cycle of reevaluating where are we? Is everything that we are doing, personnel, finances, the partnerships that we're creating, are all of those aligned to our goals? Are all of us pulling in the same direction? And if we're not, what do we need to change? I feel like that's what a constant cycle of what an effective leader would do together with the board around everyone moving and making sure that our vision is becoming a reality using student achievement data, using parent satisfaction, using everyone's ideas to make sure that where we want to go is where we're going and adjusting course along the way, particularly in light of the budget challenges that we are going to be facing and the difficult decisions that we're going to need to make together around what do we value and how can we make this the best place possible with what we've got.
The first thing that I would be looking at is wanting to start building relationships with our personnel at the district level as well as at the school level. One of my favorite parts of my job is that I'm out at schools every week. So every Thursday, we call the district office. You're not going to find me there because I'm out at schools, between 4 to 5 schools on those Thursdays. So I make it to all of the schools throughout the month, to 2 months. And so what I really think is important is for me as the superintendent of Creighton is to get out to the schools, get to know the staff, get to know the administration, attend school and school events, so the meet the teacher nights, the different community events, because I think that visibility piece is very important when it comes to the superintendent, because that leadership needs to know who is leading their children's education. The other thing that I would say goes along with the budget. When we're looking at Creighton's budget, it's based on per pupil allocation, and so we know we need to look at that enrollment. And so approximately about a 25% decline over the last 10 years. What is happening? What can we do to change that? How many kids live in this community? I think one of the first things I also would be looking at is hiring a demographer to really look at what is happening within the boundaries of Creighton. How many kids are living in the boundary? Where are they attending? So that we can start capturing that information so that we can be making some decisions on how can we market Creighton to be that school of choice, that district of choice. What type of programming may we look at that is going to be enticing? I think we need to survey our staff. I think we need to survey our parents. We need to gather information before we start down a path that is going to not get us that return on investment, those results that we want. So I think there's a lot of gathering of information that needs to take place that first year, that first semester, but it's also building relationships. The relationships are going to be key on pulling people together to really make a difference across the entire organization. Thank you.
A staff question. Please tell us how you will establish and maintain a high caliber gifted program.
There's no gifted students in Scottsdale, is there? A gifted program is very important. Obviously, this program, it needs to be diverse. Gifted families want different things. Currently in Scottsdale, we have 2 different models. We have a pull-out model and we have a cluster model. I think our families, depending on if they're gifted special ed or regular ed, options are the key. Families need to have choices. If their child is gifted, they need to have options. I don't know the current model here in Creighton, but I think it's important to have the parents have choice. In a cluster model, the gifted teachers are pushed into the regular classroom, and where all students get the benefits of the gifted strategies. How could that be bad? All students get a little bit of the giftedness from the gifted expert, if you will. The cluster model is an excellent model in that teachers collaborate with the regular classroom teacher as well as the gifted teacher, and they team teach and they find strategies to help all students learn. If there is if the parents want a self-contained, comprehensive gifted program, then we need to make sure that our teachers have all the tools necessary to take the regular curriculum and take it to the next level. The gifted program is very important, and those families deserve the very best, as do all of our students.
My first question will be back to the person who asked the question, what would your answer be? I think the awkward part about giftedness is that we tend to narrow our definition of it through testing. And so we have screeners like the Neglieri and the COGAT that identify kids based on their logical and linguistic skills. So they can do really well in math, or they can do really well in language arts. And we tend not to find those kids who are gifted in other areas in terms of really vast problem solving, in terms of art skills, in terms of music, in terms of dancing and physical talents. So we really shortchange our kids because we narrow the focus too much on giftedness. And then we treat the programs as if they're strictly about acceleration. And sometimes we just say, oh, the math kids need to go into algebra. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes math kids need to be using what in some places is called Olympics of the mind strategies. Sometimes they need to be using college mathematical calculus strategies. And the strategies can be taught in terms of diverse problem-solving approaches for kids in the mathematics area. The way we tend to handle those other areas in terms of music and drama and art and other types of talents is we tend to put them in clubs if we have somebody interested in leading that club. So I think programmatically we need to address, one, how are we identifying kids beyond the logic and linguistics? Two, how are we creating, programs that are vast and robust and deeper than just the two areas mentioned? And then three, in what way might we invite our kids to be more involved in community-based application of their learning? Because so often we're so classroom-centric, we make everything about in the four walls, that our kids need relevance and meaning. Some of the best stuff out there is about the gifted child, and I'm talking about the bizarrely gifted child, doesn't fit in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a fit-in issue, and their need is more affective and counselytic because they want to not stand out. And so our gifted kids also need to understand that it's cool to be smart, or it's cool to be different, and we need to set up scenarios for them to show their innovation and their creativity, as well as their accelerated and enrichment programs that we tend to magnet towards. Thank you.
I'm going to try, I've got more questions than we'll get through tonight. I'm going to try to do 3 more questions because that'll give each pairing one more opportunity. Question from the community. How can we better utilize librarians to meet the strategic goals of our district? What do you think the role of the teacher librarians might be in our schools?
Guys, I keep getting all the hard questions. You're doing this on purpose, huh?
No.
Well, let me give you this idea. And it's different kind of thinking. Libraries as we know them, books are on a shelf. There might be other ways that we can access data more readily, where students can access information on a instantaneous basis. On my phone, I can gather just about any book, any source of information, without having to wait till it's my turn to go to the library, if you will. And so as librarians, I think we need to rethink perhaps the traditional model and look at ways of how we can help teachers and students in the classroom and have the equipment, the books in the classroom so that they're accessible at all times. There's some innovative programs out there where students are allowed to bring their own technology. And at home, I can't count the devices that we have for our 3 boys on my hands. They have iPods to iPads and all sorts of other things, where they can access information instantaneously. So let's look at creative ways of having that information, supporting teachers in the classroom with that information so that they have that information ready to go and don't have to spend time searching for it. So be used as a resource, I would say. I know it's kind of a different way of thinking, but we have to acknowledge kind of the information that's available to us now and the potential, harness its potential. Thank you.
Well, the strategic plan that's sort of rolling out here at Creighton has a lot to do with sort of, one of the overarching goals is sort of, teacher and student retention. And I think librarians can kind of sort of twist their role a little bit and take on a little bit more maybe of an instructional technology specialist, so that when we think of the traditional librarian, I know that in the districts that I've worked, our librarians have really become sort of the instructional technology leader in the building. So when you really start talking about retaining students, it's like, well, how rich are we making some of the experiences they have in the classroom? How are we utilizing our technology? The other overarching goal is to kind of reorganize and reinvigorate our curriculum based on the college and career readiness standards. And I think librarians can play a huge role in that, because as the curriculum is developed, the librarians then could work to not only pull certain support pieces for the teacher as they're getting to certain units within their curriculum, but they can sit down and the librarians, in my previous experience, the librarians would meet with the grade level teams and actually say, hey, what do you have coming up? What can I pull for you? What are some things that I can put together? What are some research things that I can find? What are some sites that maybe our students can get to on the internet so that they can kind of enhance their instruction? So it's sort of, I think the librarian, in my opinion, we call them media specialists, and our media specialists were pivotal in our building. I mean, we wouldn't have run without our media specialists. And because of that, I mean, she was involved in every aspect of the curriculum and in every meeting that we had. Our professional learning community meetings, she would sit in our PLCs on different grade levels to kind of get a better sense of where the data was kind of lagging, where our student data was lagging, and then she would work to try and find supports that we didn't have in maybe our classroom resources, but she was able to find either utilizing technology and or building up or looking up the library for sort of those nonfiction texts, those instructional pieces that maybe we didn't have a lot of information on. So extremely important role.
Staff question. What is your vision for specific involvement in and a presence in each of our 9 campuses during your first year?
So I'm currently a principal, and I have a laundry list of involvement that I would have loved and that I would still currently love in my building. I think that districts, we often focus on how to best support teachers, and I feel I have felt neglected in terms of my development. Who's going to walk through on me? Who's going to help me with this difficult situation? And I would very much like to see myself as a superintendent that is there to help principals through difficult situations, that is there to help principals analyze those data and maybe see something that they didn't see before, make plans that they may need support with. I would like to spend as much time as possible in buildings as support for the people in them. I see the district office's role as support for students and principals and teachers, and everything that we do should be to make life easier for them and to solve problems for them and to figure out what can we do to make our students reach their goals and make every school as successful as possible. So on a practical level, I would plan to spend time carving that out of my calendar, carving out days that I am strictly on school sites, problem solving with principals in classrooms, seeing what the needs are at each individual site, and then spending time compiling that data and figuring out where can we move forward and what support do people need, what do people want, how can we make life easier for the people who are there every single day with our kids, because that's what we're here for. We're here to remove barriers and make the instruction for our students as seamless and effective as possible. So that's what my vision would be in terms of relationship to school. Thank you.
Well, as I said, this is very similar to what I currently do. My role is actually administrative leadership and services, and so I do spend quite a bit of time out at the school. I go out to schools and I meet with principals, and I meet with them for about an hour, and we talk about what is happening on their campus, from student data to parent concerns to things that are happening in the classroom with a struggling student. And so really wanting to make sure that for me as the leader of praise, I need to know what's happening out at the schools. And it's only when you're out there with the day-to-day operations with the people that are in the trenches are you actually going to find out. If you stay in the district office and we're looking at it and we're making decisions without involving those stakeholders and having those conversations and having everyone pulled together, we're not making very wise decisions. And so it's very important, I think, for the superintendent to be out of the schools, in the classrooms, at the school events, and being a regular part of that environment. It is a community, and that community needs every single one of us, from our staff members, parents, and our district office, and everyone needs to be working together. And so I think that's very vital for that future of praise.
Easy one, right? Easy one.
Before I ask this last question, I'd like to remind all of you that we have comment cards at the back table. Before you leave tonight, please fill out a comment card and tell your board members what your thoughts are. Also, I would like to thank the food service department, because when we're finished with this question, we have time, or you have time, to mingle with the candidates, have a cookie, and have some lunch. Last question. We believe it takes many diverse stakeholders to create the opportunities we want for Creighton's children. Share an example of engaging diverse stakeholders and moving big ideas forward. How did you build trust among these many vital partners?
Great question. First of all, I love the food service department. Best. That's happy. While being a principal at Washington Elementary School, along I-17 or just south of Metro Center, I had the opportunity to follow 3 principals in 5 years before my tenure there. We had 1,200 kids, and we had a very interesting makeup based on community. It was a great community. It was very diverse. We spoke 33 languages on my campus, and we had a lot of work to do. Showing up there in 2005, the superintendent, Dr. Susie Cook, handed me the keys and said, "Dave, help. You come from Murphy. You come from a district with extreme poverty between the Durango Curve and Tent City, and I have a community in need. Just south of Metro Center in the red zone, the hottest crime area of Phoenix. 3 principals before me in 5 years, a staff that was lost. Period. A community that was reaching out to a school, looking for answers, looking for support, and not getting that. Well, I showed up, Superman to the rescue, if you will, with great ideas and a great vision. Well, it took a lot of work. And I realized early on it wasn't about me, it was about the fabulous people in the community. So through lots of conversations and a 3 to 5 year plan, and meeting and shaking hands with community members and parents in the community, I took our APT or PTA or PTO, whatever you want to call them, from a membership of 3 to 100 in the first year. I reached out to Valle del Sol to make sure that our families got the resources they needed. I reached out to the University of Monterrey to make sure that we had classes in our computer lab every night of the week to help our families learn English, banking, a second language, or any college class that they wanted free of charge. I had 33 languages on my campus and a community that was lost. And I learned early on by reaching out to star neighborhood leaders, excellent staff members, and just great overall teachers to come together to fight for the social justice of that community. Well, the 3-year plan turned into a 5-year plan, and at the end of the 5th-year plan, we found success. This diverse, kind of lost community was successful. They were happy. We went from underperforming to performing plus, and we earned the BBI award. This neighborhood, this diverse neighborhood that was lost, came together under a vision created by all stakeholders to make a place better. They were beating the odds. Diversity did not get in the way. Poverty did not get in the way. And it was based and rooted on a single belief that they believed that it could happen. I think back to last night before my interview. My interview last night was at 6 p.m. It was a long day at work, and I'm sitting in my office, and I'm trying to get pumped up, ready to go for this interview. I got to be smart. So I clicked on YouTube, and I typed in an old clip about a little boy in Dallas, Texas in 2008 that talked to the whole district of Dallas, 40,000 kids. His name is Dalton. And he talked to the community. He talked to those teachers, and he asked them, do you believe in me? And he told them, you better, because we're showing up on the first day of school. Because we're coming. And if you don't believe in us, then I'm not coming. And neither are my students, my friends. So I think back to the work that happened in Washington and the diversity and overcoming the challenges. We crossed borders, we crossed lines. We did so many things great there. It was great. I look at the opportunity in Creighton right now, and it's a new beginning. We have a rebirth. Dr. Boyle has done amazing work, and your next leader has the opportunity to get everybody to believe in Creighton. So diversity, piece of cake. Thank you so much.
I realize I'm between you and the cookie. But I only have 2 long stories for you. In Tucson Unified School District, we were down about 20,000 students, 65,000 student system. And I was charged with leading the school closures. Thank you very much. And I worked with a really great team of people about how do you not break a community? How do you not, put a knife in the heart of the neighborhood when 200 people going to that school have their love there, or they went there themselves, or their kids went there, or their grandparents went there. It was a very intimidating task. And we came up with a couple of ideas, and this borders a little bit on the K-8 conversation, and it's for different reasons and isn't necessarily a Creighton story. But the lessons learned were if you give people the problem and you let them identify the depths of the problem, and you see that they want to solve the problem, they'll actually come up with the solutions. And so after many dialogues from the community and sitting with many site councils and tears, we said, what if we could garner some of the added resources and put them into a merger of schools? And we find a way to rename and rebrand the school. And so site councils began to come together, and problems began to be talked about more openly and transparently, and we were allowed to be vulnerable and have what is conversation. And so at the end of the day, which made it easy for the board because we didn't have to have all the drama and the ticketing and the Save Our Schools, which was really, of course, normal. We had pairs of site council leaders walking down the aisle, if you will, to say we'd like to get married. And we'd like to put it together, and we would like to add that librarian, we'd like to add that counselor, we'd like to add that instructional assistant piece because it will be an efficiency move. And then we won't call it a closure, we're gonna call ourselves, and they hyphenate their name. And it was just an amazing winning move, and my favorite part about that story is there was not one newspaper headline about it. And 18 schools merged into 9. And it was a huge savings for the district, but it was wrought with emotional potential. And I give the superintendent a ton of credit because she had the wisdom to see the efficiencies that can be made here without the breaking of the community. And so that was one of the big ones. All right, I'm good.
Well, again, I would like to thank. I'd like to thank you as a community for being here this evening. Please stay and meet the candidates individually. And again, how about a big hand for this group? There's a lot of talents in here. Thank you. And hand me your response card before you leave.